The last few weeks we've been talking about NLP presuppositions, right?
Yep.
And the presuppositions are things like everybody operates from a model of the world. And we have to, in order to communicate with people, we have to understand what model of the world they're working with and meet them there, kind of, that sort of thing, right?
Right.
So, what occurred to me this week is that what I'm doing with you and what I've been doing with people for the last 40 years is I've been teaching them a new model of the world, one that I created, right?
Right.
And so my model of the world, it's consistent with NLP, but it's also consistent with quantum physics, some aspects of quantum physics. It's consistent with neuroscience. It's consistent with, philosophy of mind, right? And so it really overlaps a bunch of different fields. And I haven't been able to find anybody who touches all those bases except me, because it's what I'm interested in.
Right. Right.
Like, for example, you might, talk to somebody who's a great NLP trainer, a master trainer with NLP, which might be something to think about, by the way, in terms of 10xing your income or something. Getting have a session or two with some NLP coaches and see if there's a fit, because even if they're experts in NLP, they might not know too much about the philosophy of quantum physics, which is
Right.
something I'm interested in, right? Because what I believe, and this is what I teach, that your thoughts become real. You know, so when you have an idea, a goal, let's say, you can envision it, you can imagine it, you can meditate on it, you can conceive it, but at a certain point, it's going to be physical reality, right?
Right.
And this is, in fact, what thinking is. I mean, I should have glibly say, this is exactly what you're doing every time you go to the corner store and buy a loaf of bread.
Right.
Well, I'm sure if people hear me say that, they don't get what I'm talking about. They don't really understand the importance of that. So what I mean by that is, when you decide to go to the store and buy a loaf of bread, you've changed your physical world. You live in a house that doesn't have any bread in it, and now suddenly, boom, you live in a house that's got a loaf of bread in it. So your physical world has changed.
Right.
But I'm sure when I say that kind of thing to people kind of go, "What's he talking about? Some kind of poetry or something?" What is, my world hasn't really changed. I just went to the store and bought a loaf of bread, right? But the
Right.
thing is, each of us has a map of the world, right? Like NLP says, and so my world at the moment, let's say, it doesn't have any bread in it. My world being, where I live, right? But I can go to the store and I can get a loaf of bread and bring it back home, and now I can make a sandwich. So in my way of thinking, my life has fundamentally changed because I can make a sandwich now in my kitchen, whereas a couple hours ago I couldn't, right?
Right.
So to me, that's exactly the same process. The process is the same. The results are a little different. But the process of conceiving something and then, depending on how you want to explain it, creating it. Like, for example, I don't create the bread, but I create it for me because now it's in my kitchen, right? So when I went to England, I created that speaking gig in England out of thin air. I mean, literally, right? I just said, hey, I want to go to England. I'm going to go to England on a trip. I'd like to do some speaking there, so I'd love to organize a speaking gig. How do I do it? So I visited my future self. I entered the body of my future self. I looked out at the audience there and I said, how did I do this? Because my future self, speaking in England in the future, is the only person who knew. And all the 8 billion people on the planet, or however many there are now, there's only one person who knew how I did it, and that was my future self.
Mm-hmm.
So I asked him, how did you do this? And he said to me, I was going to say she said to me, but we won't go there. But so what he said was, well, what you did was you sent an email to a whole bunch of schools or a whole bunch of positive thinking groups asking them if they wanted you to talk to their group, and this group said yes. Now that was, if you want to call it this way, that was a meditation exercise. That was a creative visualization exercise. That was me using my inner senses in a very specific way, right?
Mm-hmm.
To visit my future self who had achieved a specific goal, right?
Right.
So if you're going to 10x your income, this is exactly the kind of thing that I suggest you do. So when you say lately you've been practicing meditation or something, I think that's, kudos to you, because that's actually the secret, is to use your inner senses.
I think a big part of it is to be aware that you're not doing that.
Well, that's true. Most people aren't aware that they aren't even, they aren't doing it, but now you are, right?
Yeah.
And
Well, it's a skill set. I mean, it's a skill set, really.
Yes.
The way I look at it,
Yeah.
Most people aren't aware that that they could do that. Now they might know something about planning or goal setting. Most people, but I would say 96% of the population or something like that does not conceive of using this type of model to have success, which actually, is more than just a model. It becomes a reality, right?
Yeah, well, they don't know the model. That's what I'm saying. Like this is my model.
Right.
Well,
And I think that's where, I think when you approach people or in some method, whatever method it approaches people, they're going to say, what's different about you? Why are you different? What do you bring to the table that's different?
Right.
Because there's other people doing things. And I don't think anybody's doing it this way. That's why I kind of latched on when I heard what you were doing. I said, wait a minute, I've not heard this. And it's not only just one part of a process. There's many parts to what you've taught.
Exactly. Well, that's what I want to talk about today. That's what I'm sort of
Yeah.
leading up to, right? But yeah, you're right. So this is a technique. You were talking about NLP techniques, the last couple of weeks. So this is a technique, right? But it involves a couple of, to use this word, presuppositions. So we talked last week about, the last couple of weeks, we talked about the NLP presuppositions. So I've been thinking this week about what are some of Anthony Hamilton's presuppositions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because without the presuppositions, then it doesn't really make any sense. So you have to understand the presuppositions, because otherwise it won't make any sense, right? And if it doesn't make sense, then it's pretty hard to use it. I mean, you can use it without it making sense, because it'll make sense over time. Your brain will switch, and it'll start to, you'll start to go, now I understand what's going on here, right? So you don't have to understand it or believe it to use it. The same as I can drive my car downtown. I don't understand how the engine works, but I can use it, right?
Right.
Yeah, so let's talk about this model that I created and some of the presuppositions. And you can help me with this, because you might see things differently than I do. So the first one is that time is a field. Now, right away, this is going to be an unknown concept to the vast majority of people.
Right.
Certainly Western people. Eastern people, spiritual people, whatever, Eastern, Buddhists or something, they might go, oh yeah, okay, So anyway, so that's one of my fundamental concepts, right? That time is a field. So now the model that most people have, I believe, I'm assuming that they do because this is what it seems like to me, and this is what I thought when I first started this, right? The thing that blew my mind was when I had that dream at 10 and I had to make sense of it. So this is what I did. I spent 20 years trying to make sense of it, right? And so one of the fundamental presuppositions then of this Anthony Hamilton model is that time is a field. Now most people think, well, my life is kind of like a straight line, like I have this path through time that I can remember my past because it was physical, and memory is like a recording, like a videotape or something of my past experience. That's what I used to think, and that's what most people, I believe, seem to think.
Right.
That we have these physical moments, right? We have one physical moment and then another physical moment, another physical moment, and my memory is a recording of my physical moments in my past. So what I'm saying is that's not true. It's a very limited way of looking at it. What's actually true is that time is a field. So if I flip a coin right now, heads or tails, in a sense the world can split because in one world it's heads and in another world it's tails, right? But I can so both of those exist. Both of those parallel realities exist a minute from now when I'm going to flip my coin. And they're both equally real. They're not physically real. Only one of them is going to be physically real. But at the moment they both exist equally and they have a certain reality to them. Now, St. Augustine in the 4th century talked about this. He said, both the past and the future exist in my mind and they have a reality of sorts. Well, I think this is what he was talking about, right? This is exactly what he was talking about. So this is something that people have been discussing and debating now for, literally 3,000 years almost that I know of, So it's a big idea, and lots of physicists and lots of scientists and mathematicians are debating it all the time. You go on YouTube, there's all sorts of people discussing, is time real? Is it, whatever. So
Mm-hmm.
so one of the presuppositions in my model is that time is a field. It consists of multiple realities. For example, if I flip a coin and I get a head, then I flip it again, I get another head. Well, it could be head or tail, right? And each one of those could be a head or a tail. So if you look at the different branches there, I mean, if I flip that coin 100 times, I'm not a mathematician. I don't know how many possibilities there are, but I can certainly imagine all of them, right? I can imagine that I get a head, 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 tail, tail, head, head, tail, head, tail, tail, head. You know what I mean? So all of
Right.
those are different branches, right? So that's how time exists. Time exists as a field of possibilities. So that's number one, right? That's
Right.
one. I'm not sure if that's the most basic of my presuppositions, but it's certainly one of them, right? So that's true of the future and the past. Now, again, this is a mind blower for most people because most people think that the past has a different reality to it than the future does.
Yeah,
because
we know that not to be true. I mean,
because the past obviously was real at some point. At least there was a reality to it that I experienced, But the future hasn't happened yet, so they're different. But in terms of this field of possibilities, they're equal. This is what Einstein says. Basically, there's no difference between the past and the future, right?
right.
So the next thing is that the imagination, this is another one of my presuppositions here. The imagination is a connection. So, for example, if you say to me, "Okay, Anthony, if you flip a coin right now and it's heads, I'll give you $100," right?
Mm-hmm.
I imagine that, and I go, "Ooh, that would be exciting." So I get excited by thinking about that. So to me, that proves that it has a reality of sorts, as St. Augustine said, because just thinking about it makes me feel good. You're going to give me $100, right? Whereas if
Right.
I flip it and it's a tail, oh, disappointed. Different neurochemicals, right? Now I'm
Right.
disappointed. I could have won $100. I got nothing. Or
Right.
worse, I have to pay you $100. It's like, hey, on
Yeah.
the one hand, it's a win. On the other hand, it's a loss, right? So to me, that's proof that those possibilities each have a reality because they mean different things to me and they affect me differently. So my imagination connects with one in which I win $100. I feel good, got a little dopamine coming in there, and I connect with the other one, and oh, it's a disappointment. It's a loss. It's a bummer. I lose a hundred
Right.
bucks now. So, and of course, just as a sidebar, each of these can become addictive, right? I mean, people that go to the casino and gamble, people that buy lottery tickets and spend money on gambling, they do it because that pattern of thinking of them winning and that shot of dopamine that they get, they become addicted to that, right?
Well, and part of it too, I mean, not to just be too distracting from what you're talking about, is that, the meaning determines the feeling.
Yeah, that's
So
right.
you might take, if you said, I'll flip a coin and I'll give you $100, and you got to wait for me to flip the coin, I'm going to do it in a minute. I'm going to flip this coin. Well, most people would be excited, but you might take, if it was Elon Musk, he says, don't waste my time,
Oh yeah.
right?
Elon
He'd say,
Musk says every time he has a business meeting, it's worth $100 million to him.
right. He says, I'm going to a meeting. What are you going to do? You're going to flip $100? So he would be disappointed.
Right.
He'd say, if you want to do that for, get my interest in that, maybe it better be $100,000, right? He says,
Yeah,
you
exactly.
know,
Well, even a
every
hundred
flip.
thousand dollars probably wouldn't,
Right. I mean, you say you
wouldn't
better
get his
flip it 20
attention.
times, right? So, I mean, now the money may be irrelative to him too. He may say, there's no amount
Right.
of money that would interest me in that. I'm not interested in doing that.
Exactly.
So,
But let's not get
it's value
distracted
plan.
here.
No,
Let's not
but
get
my
too
point is
distracted.
the meaning. The meaning is the
Yeah,
purpose.
that's right.
It
So
determines the
so
chemicals
the
that do it.
meaning is another part of my model, which I'll talk about
Okay.
in a second.
Okay.
So that's the basic thing that time is a field. All possible realities, past, present, or future,
Right.
are equal. They have this, St. Augustine reality to them in the sense that they have an effect on me, right?
Right.
So the imagination is my way of connecting to any one of those particular possible realities.
Yep.
And I use the example of like a telephone or even a Zoom call like this. There's
Like a wormhole.
obviously a
Wormhole.
connection between where you are and where I am at the moment. And here it is.
Right.
It's the Zoom. Information's going back and forth. So information. This was one of my first big insights. That what memory is information moving through time. When I'm remembering the past, when I'm remembering something I did, like win the yo-yo contest or stop smoking or get my university degree, any of my past successes, for example. When I'm connecting to that, which is how I think of memory, it's a connection, right? So when I
Mm-hmm.
connect to that past positive experience, information is traveling through time from that place in time uh, to where I am right now in my body, and that's what I call thinking, right? So if it's in the past, then I call it memory. And if it's in the future, I call it maybe a goal or a dream or a fantasy, you know. I mean, you can have fantasies in the past and in the future too.
Right.
But what I consider a goal is like a memory of a positive future possibility that I've created, right? So when
Say
I
it one more
imagined
time.
myself
Say it one
going
time.
to England and giving a talk, that was a goal. And when I thought about it, I was connected to that possible reality. I didn't know if it was going to actually come true, become physically
Mhm.
real, until it actually happened. Until I went to that town, Bournemouth, showed up at the designated time, at the designated place, and the people were there waiting for me, and I did my thing, right?
Right.
So until then, it might not have happened, but it did. So that's an
Right.
example of me sort of, using this technique to create a physical reality for myself that if I hadn't done that, if I hadn't followed that process, sent that email, communicated with those people, agreed to go there and do my talk, that would not have happened, right?
Can I paraphrase that?
Sure.
So you were creating your future past, didn't it? So you were in the past, you were creating your future past,
Well,
right?
I was
Now.
creating my future present, right?
Well, yeah, at the moment, but now it's in the past.
No, I mean when I was there, I created my physical present.
Right. But that is now in your past, is what I'm
Now it's a
saying. So you,
memory. Now it's a
yeah,
now it's a
it's
past event. One of the many possible past events that
right.
actually happened, and I can prove it. I have pictures of it and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, because I mean the present moment only lasts for like a millisecond, right? I mean, boop, it's gone.
Right.
So, but I mean that event lasted about 3 hours, I guess, that I did my
I
talk.
guess the reason I bring that up is that if someone wants to 10x their results, they want to sit in the future where that last month they produced 10x what they had done before. And so
Yeah, that's right. That's
to
right.
do
Yeah.
that, you
So,
must
and
start
that's
that process at some point where you create your future past. I mean, to do
well, that's
that,
right.
you reach forward, grab it, go backwards. It happens. Now it's your past, and you're forward in time. And so, I mean, that's quite an advanced move.
Yeah, that's right. It is an advance. It is an advanced move. So, for example, when I did that technique I just mentioned, I went into my future self and said, "Here I am in England giving a talk." I could visualize it, right? I could
Right.
see it. I could hear it. I could feel it. I was excited. Here I am. I said to myself, "How did I do this?" You know,
Right.
and my future self said, "Well, you sent an email to a bunch of people and asked them to invite you, and one of them, this group said yes, right?"
Right.
So that was, in a sense, I was plugging into my future self's memory. That's what I was doing in that
Yeah.
situation, right? Okay, so there's a couple of presuppositions there. Time is a field. It's a field of infinite possibilities, past, present, and future. Um, the physical present, it's just one of a broad spectrum of possibilities, like I illustrated with the heads and the tails. If I flip a coin 100 times, there's 100. I don't know. I'm not sure how many possibilities there are out there, but certainly in terms of variety, it could be head, head, tail, tail, head, tail, tail. Like that, kind of like a roulette wheel, black and red or black. You're going to get a certain
Mm-hmm.
combination. Um, and information can move through time. So that's what thinking is. So memory is information moving through time. Goal setting, i.e., planning a trip to England, is information moving through time too. So your mind works the same in the past and in the future. There's another presupposition, right? So the mind can connect to any one of those past, present, or future possibilities. Now, these things that we're talking about right now, the last 10 minutes or so that I've been giving these presuppositions, I'm assuming, I'm guessing, you can tell me whether or not I'm accurate, that you understand what I'm talking about.
I do.
You say, yeah, I got it now, because I've been listening to you for 2 years and I've proven some of these things to be true so I get it. This is a different way of looking at it, right? Whereas a lot of people, when they first hear me talk about this, they don't get it. They might be able, I mean, if they speak English, obviously they're going to be able to conceive of it, but they might say, well, what's this guy talking about? He's talking about some kind of fantasy or some dream, or it's not real. So those first few prepositions then are presuppositions, I should say. They're I think they form the basis of my whole system. And that's what I mean when I say your mind is a time machine. That what your mind is doing is like a radio that can pick up signals from a whole bunch of different radio stations, east, west, north, and south. That's what
Right.
my mind can do. And some of them I call memories, some of them I call goals, some of them I call regrets. I had a car accident a while ago. It cost me $1,000 to get my car fixed. I regret that. That was a mistake. Right? So
Right.
I wish that didn't happen. I just wasn't careful enough.
Right.
So do you have any comments so far?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I think is happening here, in my opinion, is that, and it was interesting. I watched I don't know if you watched that. I think it was called Latitude. Was a story about the Beatles where the guy was living in the alternative reality where time stopped and the Beatles didn't exist any longer, and so he was the only one, and he wrote the story of the movie that's out on Netflix.
Oh, I think you mentioned that before. Yeah, no, I haven't seen that. No.
Oh, you didn't see that?
No.
Oh, it's a very interesting movie. I mean, the guy, I just saw it the other day, so I don't know if I mentioned having seen it or maybe I saw of the concept of it, but
Yeah, I remember you talking about it a couple of weeks ago, I think.
so I watched. Maybe I just had seen previously had seen the trailer, but it's really very good. But the premise is that something does. It's really the Mandela effect. Okay, it's
Right.
kind of and so it's a example, an iteration of the Mandela effect, the movie premise. But the idea that there's alternative realities, and one of them no longer exists in the way it did, so he goes and recreates it to a certain extent, which that his theme has been out there. I remember a book that I read long ago that
It's been out there
the
for
guy,
thousands of years. People have been writing stories like this for thousands of years.
yeah, yeah. Well,
And
the one was,
I believe, as an aside, that this is the reason that people create these kind of stories is because this is how our mind works. That's why people write stories like, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court. I mean, or, Through the Looking Glass, Alice in Wonderland, or, Harry Potter, right? Somebody
well,
dreamed up this story.
yeah. Well, I mean that's funny because Harry Potter is brought up as an example of that. But in the thing, so it'll be interesting if you watch. It's really a very fun movie. But
Oh, I'm sure it is.
if you enjoy the Beatles music, it's fun to hear the
Yeah.
music sung and stuff like that as well. But I won't spoil it for you if you think you're going to watch it or for people who are going to watch it. But it's
Yeah, I
really
might
worth
watch it.
seeing.
It sounds
But the
interesting.
reason I bring it up
I'm a
is that
Beatles fan.
I think that your methodology is not unlike Harry Potter. Your
Oh no, it's very
methodology is
similar.
a whole system. I mean, if you
Yeah.
look at J.K. Rowling, she wrote a whole system of an alternative world. And I would think that your teaching, after being here for a year and a half or 2 years, is very similar in that it's a different language in an alternative world that is not immediately obvious to most people. I think your perception is higher than most people, so you've seen this pattern that's going on around you. I think it's kind of an interest in physics and things like that and science and these different areas that you've put together a pattern that's effective. It's effective in handling two different things. One, the reality that you create, but also the emotion that you create. So, I mean, there's emotion in your book is 50% of this. I
Hmm.
think at chapter 11, I think it is your 10. You talk about how you will develop an emotional control that's also a mental control. So you'll get your physical results will change, but your mental results will also change, which
Right.
they're equally important to be happy or to enjoy your life or feel like you lived it the right way to me as it is to be successful in some endeavor. And so there's the inner mind and there's the outer mind, right? The outer reality. So you want to change both. So I
Well,
think
yeah,
there's
that's
just
true. Yeah, that's exactly right. So let's get back to this model again, right?
uh-huh.
So so one of the reasons why we have so many stories like this is
Mhm.
because I think this is how we think. This is what thinking is, right? People can create these fantasy stories. Now, so how does it apply to people? Why is it important? Why have I spent, you know, 60 years of my life thinking about this? Because because just the same as I can go to the store and buy a loaf of bread and have one of my dreams manifest. My dream being I want to make a peanut butter sandwich, right? And I don't have any bread, so I need some bread. Um, I manifest that dream the same as I manifested the speaking gig in England. Um, but the two are different in a sense because the one is easy, right? Go to the store and buy a
Hmm.
loaf of bread. I mean, that seems so mundane. Of course we can do it. Well, the only reason it's mundane is because everybody does it, right? And there's stores all over the place. You can go to any store and buy a loaf of bread. Whereas arranging a speaking gig in a foreign country that you've essentially never been in, even though I was born there, I mean, I hadn't been back really um, before. So different quality, but same idea, right?
Hmm.
And so that's why I'm so excited about it, is because we can make our dreams physically real. That's the thing. You see? Now, Harry Potter, in the story, he might be able to make his dreams physically real. But he's a character in a story, right? Whereas, what I'm saying is actually, we're all Harry Potter. We just don't know it. We can all make the dreams real. And if you look at J.K. Rowling, her dream was to become a successful writer, and she's probably one of the most successful writers in history. Now, she might not have sat down and said, oh, I want to become a billionaire writing my stories about this teenage magician.
Hmm.
She might not have thought to that extent, but I'm sure she thought, I'd like to earn money and I'd like to make a good living, writing as a writer. So she certainly
Right.
manifested that, right? So, in other words, she made her thought, I'd like to earn money as a writer, she made that real. The same as the person who says, hey, I'd like to go and buy a loaf of bread and bring it home and make a sandwich, makes their dream real, right? That's why I'm
Right.
so excited about this model, is that it gives people a practical way to achieve their dreams. We would love to have you join us in this online community for $1 a day. You get your own PDF copy of the book upon which this entire training series is based, along with 2 powerful meditation visualization recordings. You also get a free copy of this Design Your Life workbook and a 4-hour video course that tells you how to use it to change your life step by step. You get lifetime access to all of this on day 1, and you can cancel your registration at any time. Just go to mindtimeandpower.com and click the link to join the online community.